All right, so this is kind of a part 2 video of how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. Okay, and so the goal is we need to factor them first and then solve second. And as I like to say, first, second. First, it starts with an F, so just factor. First factor. Second, solve. And solve an S second, so it'll start with S. So first factor, second solve. All right, so taking a look at number 7 here, first thing we need to always do is make sure that everything is in the correct order and everything is on the same side. So notice how negative 35 is on the other side of the equation. I need to move it over. And I need to make sure my equation is in order, so I'm going to write negative 35v right here, minus 42 equals 0. Once my equation equals 0, then I can begin factoring and solving. Okay, I need to make sure the equation equals 0, then I can factor and solve. So now that I'm here, well, let's take a look. I can factor, the first thing I always had to look for, can I factor something out of all of them? A 7, 35, 42. A 7 can come out of all of them. So minus 5v minus 6. And man, that makes it a lot easier. Okay, here we go. If I make my x factor chart, I know negative 6 goes on top because there's invisible 1 times negative 6. On the bottom is negative 5. So the right combination that multiplies gives me negative 6, but adds to give me negative 5. 2 and 3, no, because I need to make them both a negative. What about negative 6 and positive 1? Well, negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Yes, did it. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this problem and split up the 5v into 1v squared plus 1v minus 6v minus 6. And now I'm going to group my equations, or group my two different parts here. I can factor out a 1v from the first one. That gives me v plus 1. I'm going to factor out a negative 6 from there, and I'm going to get a v plus 1. Perfect. Now these match. The parentheses match here and here. So I'm going to write v plus 1 in one of my parentheses, and v minus 6 go in the other one because the leftovers go out. Then the last thing I'm going to do, I have to put the 7 I attached, that I factored out at the very beginning needs to go in front. Now that I've factored the equation, okay, so it's 7 times v plus 1 times v minus 6 equals 0. Now I'm going to set each parenthesis equal to 0. So, and not just every parenthesis, every part of it. So 7 equals 0, v plus 1 equals 0, and v minus 6 equals 0. Okay, first taking a look at 7 equals 0. Well, that doesn't even make sense, right? Because 7 definitely doesn't equal 0. So I can get rid of it. If 7 doesn't equal 0, that doesn't even make sense. That part isn't needed. Here, the second one, here is subtract 1, and v equals negative 1. That's one of my answers. And we add 6 to both sides. V equals 6. So those are my two answers for this problem, but I had to actually factor it out in order to do that. Okay, and let's do a little bit more difficult example here. So number 8, again, make sure you move everything to the same side before you start. Let's do number 10. Let's take a look at number 10 here. Okay, let me erase this little part here. There we go. So first of all, I need to arrange everything and get everything on the same side. Well, and I need to combine like terms here and here, so I'm going to add 5n squared over here, 5n squared, which is going to give me positive n squared, or positive 1n squared, plus 6n minus 16 equals 0. Okay, from here I need to do my x factoring. Invisible 1 times negative 16 is negative 16. On the bottom is going to be positive 6. So what combo will give me negative 16 and positive 6? It's going to be 8 and negative 2, right? 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. 8 plus negative 2 is 6. And now I'm going to split up the 6n in the two different parts. So I'm going to have n squared plus 8n minus 2n minus 16. All right, let's go ahead and group the first two terms and the last two terms. I can factor out an n from the first parenthesis, n plus 8. I can factor out a negative 2 from that parenthesis, and plus 8. The parentheses match. Awesome. So I'm going to write that only once because they match. N plus 8. And then n minus 2, the leftovers, go in the other parenthesis, n minus 2. And that's all equal to 0. Then I set each piece equal to 0. So that means I'm going to have n plus 8 equals 0 and n minus 2 equals 0. And if I subtract 8 from both sides, I get n equals negative 8. If I add to both sides, I get n equals 2. So those are my two answers for number 10. So the goal of this is that you factor it, and when you're done factoring, you can set each factor equal to 0, or each part of the problem equal to 0. So I hope this gives you guidance and direction, and good luck with the rest.